Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Moran Show. The aftermath of NFL Wildcard Weekend is here. We still got 2 more games left, but I feel like the bulk of what happened and what I can talk about is already there. So that's why I'm recording this. It's a Monday morning. I feel great. First time that I've slept early, woke up early to start the week, and I'm doing the Moran Show. I feel very proud of myself because, I'm going to tell you guys something. A big problem of mine is consistency and discipline. When it comes to the Pick a Side podcast, I'm disciplined and consistent all the way through. But when it comes to my own content, for some reason, I put it on the back burner at times, and I feel like I'm shortchanging myself. I'm shortchanging you guys because I like doing it. It's just sometimes I get really lazy, and I'm sure that all the lazy guys out there, procrastinators out there can feel what I go through because I'm very much someone that's like that. Unless I have a set schedule and set routine, I can get off track very easily. And that's why with Pick a Side, I haven't really gotten off track because Pick a Side is such a well-oiled machine. There's such a set schedule for the most part that it's easy for me to keep up with. But with the Joel Moran Show, it's so sporadic. You never know when I'm going to record. I never know when I'm going to record. And that's a goal of mine in this New Year's, is to try to be more consistent with it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I'm trying to sleep earlier, wake up earlier, get things done earlier in the day. I got a jam-packed show for you guys today on the Joel Moran Show. I'm going to talk about teams that won, teams that lost in the wild card so far. And I, on Twitter, asked you guys to ask me questions. I put out a tweet and I told you guys, reply to this with a question. I'll answer it on the show. So I'll get to that kind of in the middle of the show or towards the end. I definitely will answer every single question though. So moving forward, I'm going to be doing that. So if you guys want to follow my Twitter, go ahead and follow it at Joel V. Moran. Drop me questions each time I'm going to record an episode and I will answer you. We got to talk about the first thing that really is the biggest storyline of NFL Wildcard Weekend. I'm sure that every media outlet, this is the first topic in the headline of what they're talking about. It's the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not off the mark, totally off the mark often. But when it happens, I have to accept it. And the Dallas Cowboys were completely embarrassing. I picked them as my Super Bowl pick, and I feel like a fool for picking them. 2 years in a row, I've done it. I've believed in a Mike McCarthy coach team. I believed in a Dak Prescott led team. And frankly, I'm not even surprised at this point. And that's why for all you guys that want to see me so shocked and so down about it, I'm not, because are we really surprised? I'm not surprised. And if you guys have been listening to the podcast, when we did our NFL wildcard predictions show, I mentioned that the Packers have a legit chance. They match up very well against Dallas, and I said that I was taking the points on Green Bay. This is what I mentioned exactly. I mentioned the things that the Packers do well that the Cowboys don't. The Packers run motion a lot. They do it very well. The Cowboys don't defend it well. 68% of the Packers' runs are zone runs. The Cowboys don't defend zone runs well. The Packers are great at zone passing. The Cowboys defense, it's a coin flip on what they're going to play, whether it's man or zone. Usually it's zone. That's what Dan Quinn loves doing the most, cover 3 specifically. And then because Dallas wasn't able to get home with 4, they started blitzing Jordan Love. And Jordan Love is one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz. All these things that I picked that favored Green Bay, I saw it transpire. I'm not surprised by the outcome. The Packers winning didn't surprise me. I'm surprised with how it happened. The Cowboys were embarrassed. The offense was embarrassing. The defense was embarrassing. The final score is very misleading. It was 48-32. But the game started out 27-0. And it was at the fault of both the defense and the offense. You can argue the offense. As soon as the first drive for the Cowboys happened offensively, I knew what type of game it was going to be. When I saw the Packers drive down the field and score a touchdown, and the Cowboys answered that by punting and by CeeDee Lamb dropping a pass that, you can argue Dak put it a little bit in front of him, still thought it was catchable. I was like, this is not going to be good. I knew it. I knew it. You get the feeling. The defense was getting torched, and then you have Dak Prescott throwing an interception in opponent territory. Jair Alexander, great play. And then before the first half, you have Dak throwing a pick six to Darnell Savage. So in the first half, really, the defense gave up 14 points, but the offense put them in horrible position to give up a touchdown, and then Dak threw a pick six, a 14-point swing. So in the first half, when you want to diagnose blame and give blame to certain areas of the team, all phases were terrible. Terrible. This was embarrassing. Year after year. The last 2 years, I've picked the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl. The one time I wasn't fooled was 2021, in the time that I've been doing podcasting and I've been talking into a microphone. That was when they faced the 49ers in the playoffs in 2021, and I picked the Niners to upset them. But the last 2 years, I have had some faith in the Cowboys, and they have let me down. And there's a lot of questions that come from a game like this. Is Mike McCarthy going to be the head coach? After that performance, he shouldn't be. Having your team totally unprepared for a playoff game is unacceptable. There are serious question marks about how far your team can go if led by Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is a great quarterback. Let me just set the record straight. But in these type of moments, too often he comes short. And that's the biggest problem with Dak Prescott. He's not an elevator in these moments. Last year versus the Niners, it ended with a stinker of a performance by him. And now this year against the Packers, I don't care what the stats say. He wasn't good. He was bad. The Cowboys defense against 500 teams this year have allowed 42 points, 28 points, 35, 35, 13, 31, and 22, and 19. That's an average of 28 points per game allowed, which would rank 31st. The only defense worse are the Washington Commanders in terms of points allowed. The Cowboys defense against teams that are good, they don't show up. And that's the issue with the Cowboys, because we can look at the offense all we want, and it's an issue, because I think outside of CeeDee Lamb, there aren't game changers. Brandon Cooks is old. He's a shell of himself. He cannot get open consistently against press, man-to-man coverage. Jake Ferguson is solid, but if they really don't have somebody outside of CD that they can consistently rely on. But the defense letting up 40 points against the youngest offense in NFL history is unacceptable. And I hope that the Seahawks have now crossed off Dan Quinn from their list of head coaches, because he's somebody that is too stubborn in his scheme and in his ways. And I'll explain why in a bit. The Packers offense torched the Cowboys defense. The Packers scored a touchdown on their first 7 drives 6 times. They aligned under center 63% of the time versus the Cowboys, the highest rate of any team in the NFL this season. Just to give you guys a reference, this year, Green Bay has been a team that has used mostly 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers on the field. 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. When you align under center, it's mostly because you have condensed formations and you're playing 12 personnel. So 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and a running back. The Cowboys match 12 personnel with dime coverage 63% of the time. And that wasn't just in this game. That's been the case all season long. Dan Quinn loves his defensive backs on the field. He loves playing light. The NFL average is 5%. That's just an astonishing and stark numbers difference. And you can imagine the type of advantage it poses for the offense. Because if I'm in 12 personnel and I have 5 offensive linemen and 2 tight ends, and you have 6 defensive backs on the field and 5 defensive linemen or front 7 players, so you have 4 defensive linemen and a linebacker usually, you're light. The Packers have a physicality advantage. They are going to outmuscle you. And that's what this game felt like. That's why every single run, Aaron Jones was gashing them. And that's the difference between coaches that adapt and that are stuck in their ways. Matt LaFleur this year abandoned 11 personnel for the most part. He used it in this game for sure, but 63% of the time, they aligned under center. That's not been the Packers' offense this year, at least at this rate. LaFleur abandoned what worked for the most part and went with the game plan that attacked the Cowboys' weaknesses directly. And Dan Quinn went with what he knows and did not adapt. And that's why against teams that are actually good, the Cowboys defense gets torched because they have a scheme that does not adapt to the game plan of the strengths of a particular offense. Jordan Love was blitzed 10 times of his 21 dropbacks. Cowboys generated 4 pressures on those blitzes, but Jordan Love completed all 4 passes for 114 yards and a touchdown. So again, the Jordan Love being amazing against the blitz showed up. Micah Parsons 1 pressure on 19 pass rushes, 5.3% pressure rate, the lowest of his career. A disappearing act from Micah Parsons. The only pressure he had was an unblocked pressure, and Zach Tom was amazing in his matchup against him. 9 matchups, 0 pressures allowed. The Packers had a great game plan. We got to credit them a lot. We do. But to me, this feels, and to everybody, this should feel like more of a Cowboys disaster. Because one of the best ranked offenses in the league couldn't move the ball until garbage time. Dak Prescott was terrible. And Dak Prescott gets into these habits where he's sloppy. His mechanics are sloppy, and he usually gets away with it. But against these good teams, they really show up. And the defense got torched because Dan Quinn is stubborn. The Cowboys need an overhaul. They need a culture changer. You know, since I've been alive, their coaches have been Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, and Mike McCarthy. Those just aren't needle-moving coaches, in my opinion. And there is no better cycle to hire a coach than right now. I've seen some people say Mike McCarthy has 3 straight seasons of winning 12 games. That sounds nice. It does. But what do you have to show for it? I'm all for keeping a coach if there's not an upgrade out there. But when you have Bill Belichick and you have Jim Harbaugh and you have Mike Vrabel out there, you have to make a move. The Cowboys have to get a new coach. The offense was embarrassing. The defense was embarrassing. The Cowboys are 4-10 in the playoffs since 2000. 10-game minimum, the worst record amongst any team in the NFL. It's not looking good for the Cowboys, like moving into the future. Dak Prescott is on a final year of his deal. Next year, I think, is make or break for him. They have some important free agents: Tyron Smith, Tony Pollard, Stephon Gilmore, Tyler Biadasz. I hope I'm saying his name right. I always get his name wrong. God damn it. Stephon Gilmore was toast in this game. I don't know if you guys seen how many times he got beat. The Dontavian Wicks touchdown was one-on-one, him versus Wicks. Gilmore got beat bad. Then there was another play of Romeo Doubs just annihilating him. I ignored the red flags with the Cowboys. I can't believe it. I really can't. On paper, it looks good, but Gilmore really, when they ask him to stick on somebody man to man, it doesn't end well. And Deron Bland is a ball hawk, but he's not a lockdown corner, and it showed. This game was embarrassing. This game was really embarrassing. I think the core of this team will be back together. You got to bring in a new coach and see what happens next year. But a loss like this, like I said, I'm not surprised the Packers won. I'm surprised at how it happened, how flat the Cowboys came out in this game. Just underwhelming. It's just underwhelming. And moving forward, this is one of those teams, and I promise you guys next year I won't buy into them unless something drastically changes. This is one of those teams that whatever they do in the regular season truly does not matter. It does not. The Cowboys lost, but on the other end, the Packers won, and Jordan Love was phenomenal. Let's line up the mood a little bit, because I was split on this game. I thought it was going to be a close matchup, but it was never a doubt that Jordan Love was going to play well. It was never a doubt that Jordan Love was going to rise up to the moment. Jordan Love is a sensational quarterback. If you have believed in him all year and you have went through the roller coaster of what was the late September, late October stretch where in 4 weeks he had 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and you didn't give up then, because there was a lot of Packers fans wanting Sean Clifford to start at quarterback. I was reading the tweets. I keep the receipts. But even in the games Jordan Love struggled in, I wasn't worried. Against Denver, that everybody made it out to be bigger than it really was. You watch the film back, and the offensive play calling in that game was abysmal. The Raiders game was a bad game for Jordan Love, I will admit. And then the Lions game, first half wasn't very good. Second half, he was awesome. People gave up on Jordan Love in the middle of the year. And all the Jordan Love truthers, if you stuck with Jordan Love throughout the season, you deserve a round of applause, because people gave up. I'm a proud day one Jordan Love believer. When he got drafted out of Utah State, I fell in love with his talent. I thought Green Bay was a perfect spot for him to develop. And through all the years of media heads, social media, calling this guy a bust because Aaron Rodgers didn't have a receiver to throw to, or I should say another receiver to throw to, because he had Devontae Adams. He just needed another guy. And that's why people were so mad about the pick. All that anger was directed at Jordan Love, a guy that had nothing to do with the pick. He can't control whether or not he was selected, but yet people called him a bust for absolutely no reason. You had people thinking that he wasn't good when he never got a real chance, and I just never understood it. And then last year, when he got in the game for Aaron Rodgers against the Eagles, Jordan Love played better than Aaron Rodgers in that game. The Packers offense had life. It had a spark. And that was the game that I saw that I went, okay, he's special. It's a small sample size, but the talent with Jordan Love was always there. And that's why I don't understand quarterbacks that have immense talent. People just rule them out immediately. If you ever seen Jordan Love throw the ball, the talent is eye-popping. even dating back to Utah State. What he can do, very few quarterbacks can do. That's why before the season, I had no problem saying he can be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. A name that was brought up was Kyler Murray. You look at Kyler, you look at Jordan Love throws the ball better. That it just is what it is. The talent was always there. Coming into the season, I had the Packers going 10-7. They went 9-8. I had them making the playoffs. I had them winning the NFC North. 2 of those 3 were correct. Well, I would say one of those 3 because I wasn't right about the 10 wins. They were 1 game off. But I had them making the playoffs. I said it wouldn't be crazy if Jordan Love plays better than Aaron Rodgers this year. Because last year, Aaron Rodgers was 26th in QBR for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers had a down season. If Jordan Love can give the Packers better quarterback play than they got from Rodgers last year, to me, it was a no-brainer that they were going to make the playoffs. And now we see Jordan Love, who in 21 plays versus the Cowboys in the playoffs, 1.22 EPA play per game. The best all time. It's the most efficient playoff performance ever. Previous record was 1.08. 16 for 21, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. His last 9 games, 2,422 yards, 21 touchdown passes, 1 interception. Completing almost 71% of his passes, 8.1 yards per attempt, 116.6 passer rating, and 8 games with multiple touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 100-plus passer rating. He's incredible. He is unbelievable. What Jordan Love is doing right now, is more impressive than the second half stretch of last year that Trevor Lawrence had. And in the second half of the season, including myself, Trevor Lawrence was viewed as a consensus top 10 quarterback. Very few guys you were taking over Trevor Lawrence. Jordan Love is playing better. I think by a wide margin. He's sensational. He's elite. And we saw the difference on Sunday between a game changer and a game manager. Shout out to Cam Newton. Jordan Love is a game changer. Jordan Love is somebody that, even if he's off platform, even if he's under duress, he doesn't panic, and he can make every single throw on the field at almost every single angle. He breaks the rules of quarterbacking. Where Dak Prescott, he has to have a steady platform. He has to have consistency. He can't be inconsistent in his mechanics often, or try to attempt trick shot throws, because oftentimes they're not going to end well. In the NFL, for the most part, you have to have a game-changing quarterback to win. And that's why most of the time, who wins the Super Bowl? Game-changing quarterbacks. And I think Jordan Love is a quarterback that is not only capable of winning a Super Bowl, but I think he will win one. And I don't think it's crazy to say it can happen this year. I know they face the 49ers next, and I was asked yesterday if the Packers had a chance. And my instant response was no. But then I thought about it, and I said, well, why don't they have a chance? The year that the Packers had the most success against the Niners in the playoffs, defending the run, was when Joe Barry was their defensive coordinator. The way this defense is playing, the way Jordan Love is playing, they can make it a competitive matchup against the Niners. And right now, I think the line is 9 points in favor of San Fran. That's disrespectful. Have we seen the Packers the last 9 weeks? They're 7-2 in their last 9 weeks, the same as the Niners. And Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the matchup. It's not even close. It really is not even close. And what I love about Green Bay is that, unlike other teams who have a receiver who is clearly the best receiver on the team and everybody else are just kind of, guys, the Packers legitimately have a bunch of good receivers that Maybe Charvarius Ward takes one of those guys out, but everyone else can win their matchup. Dontavian Wicks can win, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. And when you have a plethora of receivers and not just one, you're not top heavy at that position, it makes you more unpredictable and dangerous offensively. The Niners also are not good at defending the run. If the Packers can get up early against San Fran, I think they got a really good chance of winning that game because Jordan Love is playing elite level football, and I think there's no reason for me to think that he's going to slow down. I'm fixing my TV here. Sorry, guys. The Packers are legit. Jordan Love is the truth, and the Green Bay Packers are legit. This is not just a Cinderella story. They are the hottest team in football. They're the hottest team in football. And I give them a chance against anybody. That's how good they're playing right now. And Matt LaFleur, the coaching job that he's done, I don't care if he wins the award or not, he's done the best coaching job this year. Getting this group of young players to buy in and improve like they've improved week to week. When's the last time we've ever seen a coaching job like this? I mean, it's truly amazing. And all credit goes to what the Packers have done. They're playing great on both sides of the ball. They really get after it. And Jordan Love, man, I try to tell y'all, I may have missed with the Zach Wilson take. I'm a Jets fan. Can you really blame me? I was delusional. But I ain't even going to use that excuse because I actually thought Zach was going to be good. And had he got drafted to a team like San Fran, I think his career would have shaped out much differently. But neither here or there. I was wrong about Zach Wilson. I was right about Jordan Love. That's my redemption. Before I get on to the next topic of the show, I want to answer some questions that you guys have replied to me on Twitter. I'm going to answer half now, half at the end of the show. So Aiden Munden goes, how would you rank the open head coaching positions? The Falcons, the Titans, the Panthers, the Seahawks, the Commanders, the Chargers, the Raiders, and potentially Dallas and Philadelphia. If Dallas and Philadelphia are open, Dallas and Philly are number 1 and 2. I don't care about the order, but they're number 1 and 2. Number 3 to me would be the Commanders. The Commanders are an attractive head coaching destination. Adam Peters was just hired as the GM, who was working with the 49ers front office for a very long time. They have the second overall pick, so they're going to get one of Caleb or Drake May. They have Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. They have weapons that are really good for a young quarterback to thrive in. And if they get the head coach right, this team can have a quick turnaround. And I genuinely believe that. I think the Commanders are in one of the best positions in football right now. People are not talking about them much, but they are very attractive if I was a head coach. Number 4, I would go with the Los Angeles Chargers because of Justin Herbert. I know the roster outside of him isn't the best, but as long as you have one of the top 6 quarterbacks in the NFL, you can figure out the other stuff. And Jim Harbaugh, to me, feels like a Chargers head coach, and I think it would be a home run if they were to sign him. So 1 and 2, Dallas, Philly, whatever order. Number 2, Commanders. Number 3, Commanders. Number 4, the Chargers. Next up, number 5, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. You have talent on both sides of the ball. I think scheme can help that defense perform better. The offense is solid. I think Geno Smith is a good quarterback. Just last year wasn't the most ideal year just from an offensive line standpoint. They were really injured, banged up. Abraham Lucas missed most of the season. He's their best offensive lineman, but they have offensive weapons. They have a good quarterback. I think they have talent on the defense. So to me, they would be number 5. Number 6, what we have left are the Panthers, Titans, Falcons, and Raiders. This is interesting. Number 6, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons because this past season, their defense played really well. We know what they have offensively. They are just missing a quarterback. If they can sign a quarterback that is a veteran, Kirk Cousins, maybe trade for Dak or even trade for Tua, just somebody that can at least give the offense some stability, then I think the Falcons can win the NFC South because the division is open for anybody to get right now. You just have to have a little bit more talent than your average team, and they can get there. So the Falcons will be the next one up on the list. So the last three are the Titans, Panthers, and Raiders. The Panthers are last. So between the Titans and Raiders, what's a better situation? I'm going to go with the Raiders. So my final order is Dallas, Philly, 1A, 1B, doesn't really matter. So 1, 2, number 3, Commanders, number 4, the Chargers, number 5, the Seahawks, number 6, the Falcons, number 7, the Raiders, number 8, the Titans, and number 9, the Panthers. Next question. This from Jalen's OK. Was Dak really ever good, or was he just going against bad teams? I think Dak is a good quarterback, and I think the playoffs jades our perception on quarterbacks. And because Dak plays in the biggest market in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys always got eyeballs on them. Whatever he does is magnified, and there's a lot of overreaction to it. He didn't have a good game, but if we're truly judging quarterback play off of a playoff game, then you're telling me Daniel Jones is better than Dak Prescott, which we all know is not true. So I think you have to have some substance and a criteria for how you judge quarterback play. I think Dak Prescott is still a top 10-ish quarterback in the NFL. He is what he is. I think he's a good quarterback. I'd even say great, but he's not necessarily a game changer, and he does have his limitations. But in terms of how he manages everybody at the line of scrimmage, this year it was elite. How he scans the field and goes through his progressions, I think he does that at a very high level. He has a live plus arm. I think Dak is really good, but because of these losses in the playoffs, the perception of him is much different than what he actually is. And just a reminder to everybody, Matthew Stafford in Detroit was 0-3 in the playoffs. And I know Detroit, Dallas, two different situations. I get it. But Matthew Stafford got traded to a team that had previous playoff success, and then he took them over the top. Dak Prescott, to me, is a quarterback that is capable of winning multiple playoff games, but when you have a quarterback that is outside of the upper echelon of quarterbacks, you have to have a team that is more complete, and you have to have a coach that is the better coach in the matchup. And I think Dak Prescott, for what it's worth, hasn't had coaches that have been favored against other coaches in matchups. Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy. I mean, Mike McCarthy, I think, is the best one of the two, but the fact that the Cowboys stuck with Jason Garrett for that long is very telling, and they had a lot of opportunities to move on, and they never did. So I think Dak is kind of getting a little bit too much hate now. He deserves to get criticized for this performance, but let's not act like he's a scrub or average quarterback. Day Stay Lit goes, who are the best head coaches for each position open currently? So for the Falcons, I'm going to go Ben Johnson. They have a lot of offensive personnel. Really, Ben Johnson for the Falcons or Commanders. I think those two teams have great offensive personnel that he can turn around instantly. The Chargers, I would go with Jim Harbaugh. Dallas, I'm going with Bill Belichick. Philadelphia, Mike Vrabel. The Raiders, I still want them to hire Antonio Pierce, so I would go Antonio Pierce. I think he's earned that head coaching opportunity. For the Titans, I'm going to go with Bobby Slowick. And Bobby Slowick, man, he really had a masterclass against Cleveland, so I think he will get a head coaching position. For the Seahawks, I think that's the only team left. The Seahawks and the Panthers. The Panthers, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have a team. I don't have a coach that is like the best guy for the job because the Panthers are such a mess. I really don't know what's going to happen with them. For the Seahawks, this is interesting. I'm going to go wild card. I'm going to go with Frank Smith, who is one of the offensive assistants on the Dolphins right now. And I think he's going to be a hot head coaching candidate. The Seahawks one is a little bit tricky because all of the best ones are off the table. But if it's not like somebody, it's not Frank Smith, then I'll probably go, with Mike Vrabel or a Ben Johnson, one of those two guys. Now, Ty Reviews YouTube goes, what will be the order of the Packers wide receivers next season? The true wide receiver 1, the number 2, the 3, and so on. They have a lot of talent on that room. I think the solidified number 2, not number 1, number 2, Jayden Reed. I think Jayden Reed is going to be one of the most consistent receivers in the league for a while. Number 1 receiver, it's between Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks. It's really tough. I feel confident in saying the top 3, if Watson stays healthy, will be Wicks, Reed, and Watson. I'm very high on Dontavian Wicks. He's a stud. And I feel bad for forgetting Romeo Doubs, but he's also a really good player. I just don't think he has number 1 upside. Number 2, sure. I think Doubs is more of a 3, though. So that's my take on it. Ice Trey Buckets goes, what are your thoughts on the 3 quarterbacks that are probably going in the top of this year's draft? May, Williams, and Daniels. To start out with Drake May, I think he has a legit case for being the first overall pick taken. He has an elite arm. The talent is off the charts. He's a mobile quarterback as well, which people don't really talk about, but he really fights for extra yards and he's aggressive in that manner. And I think that his pocket presence translates to the NFL much better than Caleb's does. Caleb runs around and scrambles and oftentimes can find himself in a lot of trouble because he does that. And I think that's the fatal flaw right now when you evaluate Caleb Williams that Drake May doesn't have. So that's what I'm going to say about it. Jayden Daniels, I think, is awesome. I see a lot of buzz for him maybe going in the top 3, top 10. He just won Heisman. He just broke a record that Lamar Jackson held, which is, I mean, it's impressive. It's Lamar Jackson. So Jayden Daniels, he's awesome. I never thought he was going to be like a top 10 prospect, but I got to watch the tape on him and see how I feel about him because he's really rising up boards right now. Chubb Knows It All says, what do you think of Mike McDaniel overall as a head coach this season? Clock management, play calling, scheme, etc. I think the scheme is an A+. I really do. I think it's masked a lot of Tua's weaknesses and played just ideally to his strengths, and that's what's led to 2 back-to-back seasons from Tua where his numbers look like an MVP, right? So I think the scheme is an A+. The play calling, I think it's a B+. I think in certain areas he could be better, but what people don't understand is that when you have a quarterback that is limited, it handicaps you as a play caller and what you can do. So I think oftentimes when Tua plays bad, the blame gets put on Mike McDaniel because Tua played bad. But when you watch the film back, you kind of go, oh, Mike McDaniel's dialing things up for Tua. He's just not hitting it. So I think the play calling gets a B+. And clock management, I'm going to go with a B. I think Mike McDaniel is an elite head coach. And I think right now people are making opinions about him that aren't correct because of Tua's limitations, but it comes with it. Who the F_Ice Moon goes, what team with the coaching position need could get Bill Belichick today and would be a legitimate Super Bowl 59 contender? The Eagles, the Cowboys, and there's me again bonding to the Cowboys. Oh, man. Listen, I'm just going to go with the Eagles. You know what? It feels like just a much safer option. I'm going to go on to the next segment and then finish answering the questions. This is the last segment I have on the Joel Moran Show dialed up, and it's going to be about Tua Tagovailoa because I think he's holding back the Dolphins, and the Chiefs game was the perfect example of it. It was all the evidence you needed to, if you're a Dolphins fan, say, this is not the guy that we can win with. We can't win a Super Bowl with Tua. We can't most likely win multiple playoff games with Tua. Tua is limiting the offense. And I think when you watch the game, it's pretty clear. 20 for 39, 199 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. The Dolphins finished this season 1-7 against playoff teams. The one win they have is against a Cowboys team that just got routed in the first round. It's not just this year that you can point to that Tua comes up short in big situations. 2020 as a rookie, week 17, win and get in to the playoffs. Tua plays terribly against the Bills. 2021, you have a chance to get into the playoffs if you beat the Tennessee Titans, I believe, in week 17 it is. Tua doesn't play well in that game. 2022, Tua is having a fantastic season. He's beating up on a bunch of bad teams and having great stats against bad teams. The toughest stretch of the schedule in December, he plays awful. And now this year, the Dolphins have such a favorable lead to win the AFC East. I mean, it was a shoo-in they were going to win the division. And they choke against the Titans. And who doesn't play well in that game? Tua. They beat the Cowboys. And then the last 2 weeks of the season, they lose to the Ravens. They get blown out. And then week 18 at home, they lose to the Bills. And they lose the AFC East, which is the reason why they were on the road facing the Chiefs in freezing weather. And when we saw what the weather forecast was going to be, we all knew the Dolphins were losing. Why? Because their quarterback is limited. Amongst all starting NFL quarterbacks, Tua has one of the weakest arms, if not the weakest arm amongst all starting NFL quarterbacks. He couldn't push the ball down the field. He can't push the ball down the field in cold weather. I see a lot of blame getting shifted on other areas of the team that I frankly think is just excuse making. It's excuses. Let's start off with the offensive line. Tua against the Chiefs had 13 pressures when he dropped back. He was pressured 13 times when he dropped back. 46 dropbacks in total. That's a pressure percentage of 28.2%. He took 2 sacks. 15.2 pressure to sack ratio. You want to know how many quarterbacks were pressured more than Tua was against the Chiefs in the wild card weekend? Joe Flacco was pressured more. Dak Prescott was pressured more. The opposing quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, was pressured more. Patrick Mahomes was pressured more and took 0 sacks. Matthew Stafford was pressured the exact same as Tua. He threw for 367 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Lions. The offensive line wasn't all world. It wasn't horrifically bad. So let's remove that excuse. Tua made 12 throws, 10 plus yards down the field against the Chiefs. He completed 5 of them. So less than 50% of his passes were completed when he pushed the ball down the field. 1 touchdown and 1 interception, and the 1 touchdown was an egregious underthrow that Tyreek Hill saved him on. If not for that touchdown, the Dolphins get shut out. And then I seen some people say, oh, well, Mike McDaniel was just calling screens. That's a lie. That's a lie. The Dolphins had 46 total plays offensively in this game. 9 of them were screens. 9. 37 were not screens. It's a lie. It's a lie. Mike McDaniel understands the limitations of Tua. He couldn't call any throws past 10 plus yards because Tua at that point was a huge liability. On the other end, you had Andy Reid, who kind of went with a pass-heavy approach, and Mahomes was dicing the Dolphins up. And for all those that say, well, Tua was under immense pressure, that's why he didn't perform, you want to know who had the lowest passer rating when kept clean in the wild card playoffs thus far? It was Tua. 86.1 passer rating when he was kept clean. No pressure. The lowest of every quarterback in NFL wild card weekend. Mahomes, like I mentioned earlier, was pressured more. He was pressured on 35% of his dropbacks. Tua was pressured on 28%. Mahomes, took 0 sacks, threw 0 interceptions, had an amazing game. We have seen Tua go up against 3 straight franchise quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. He's outmatched. He doesn't look the part. The stats against those teams don't look the part. And if the Dolphins ever want to get over the hump, they cannot sign Tua long term. Tua has a passer rating this year of 80.5 against playoff teams, bottom 5 in the NFL. The offensive line this year hasn't been awful. PFF ranked the Dolphins offensive line at number 9 to end the season. Despite 9 different offensive linemen playing more than 390 snaps for them, none played 1,000. They had injuries along the offensive line. They finished number 1 in pass blocking efficiency. Last 5 weeks, that's dropped. They've been 16th the last 5 weeks. And the wide receivers ranked 22nd in drops, which means that they didn't drop the ball all that often, comparatively. So the Dolphins receivers are great. The offensive line is good. The running game was awesome this year. What's the biggest problem? What's the biggest thing holding him back? It's Tua Tagovailoa. Tua has the fastest time to throw this year because he is not great at going through his progressions. So Mike McDaniel oftentimes dices up open, schemed up plays for him. And whenever Tua has been asked to go through his progressions, he struggled immensely. I told you guys before this game happened to do some homework for me. Each time Tua looks off his initial read, tell me if something good or bad happens. Oftentimes it was bad. And it's been that way against teams that have actually been good. If you are still defending Tua at this point, what are you doing? The evidence is there. It's obvious. He's a limited quarterback. The Dolphins have some interesting offseason decisions. Connor Williams, Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, Robert Hunt, all free agents. Tua is on his 5th-year option, $23 million cap hit. Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips have 5th-year options coming up. Javon Holland needs to be extended, a standout safety. And you are looking at the financial decisions that they have. They have financial decisions on 6 key players, not mentioning Tua, because they have a decision coming up on him as well. Tua has seen Herbert get paid, Joe Burrow get paid, Jalen Hurts get paid, Jordan Love is about to get paid. He won a playoff game before Tua, and this is his first year as a starting quarterback. But are the Dolphins willing to pay? I don't think they are, and they shouldn't, because he's holding them back. To finish off the Twitter questions that you guys have asked me, how do the 2 playoff wins by the Packers and Lions influence the division as a whole? How do they affect the Bears and Vikings and their upcoming off season? I think it influenced the division a lot. I think the Bears now get more aggressive and they move off of Justin Fields. After seeing what they saw this weekend, Jordan Love playing well, Jared Goff playing well, Justin Fields is not as good as them. And in order to have a chance at winning this division, they have to get a quarterback that can be just as good as them. And I don't think that's Justin Fields. So I think the Bears start becoming more aggressive. I think the Vikings keep Kirk Cousins and running back. And the NFC North is shaping out to be one of the more competitive divisions in football. Matty Boy 408 goes, which playoff teams will have the biggest question marks if they don't win a Super Bowl this year? It's easily the Ravens. Easily the Ravens. Number 2, the Bills or the Niners. 2A, 2B, whatever you want to do. But I think number 1 is definitely the Ravens given their history and Lamar Jackson's history in the playoffs. Kubi Lay 238 goes, can the Packers make a Super Bowl run? I think they can. I think they are the hottest team in the NFL. and I think they're legit. This isn't just a Cinderella story. Mokester goes, does Baker get a long-term deal regardless of tonight's outcome? It matters, the outcome tonight. He needs to play well, and I think the deal is going to be somewhat similar to Geno Smith's deal. You know, two-year contract with the out in the third year. I think that's a respectable deal for Baker Mayfield, so I think that's what's going to come next. At Mellow Enthusiast 7, Jordan Love ceiling as a quarterback, top 5 quarterback in football. Top 5 quarterback in football. He's already a top 10 quarterback in my opinion. His ceiling is a top 5 quarterback. Mike Dagoon W. After seeing what Jordan Love did this playoffs, do you think the Jets should do the same thing? Aaron Rodgers is on his last legs, and he has your franchise by the balls, making the Jets sign all his friends and essentially having no backup plan when he leaves. Yes, the Jets should draft a quarterback. Not in the first round, though. In the second, third round is fine, or trade up in the first and draft one. That's fine. But I like the idea of having a succession plan. Steven Dan goes, should the Cowboys completely clear house and hire a brand new set of coaching staff, or is there anyone you think they should keep around for next season? No. If Mike McCarthy's gone, everybody's going to most likely be gone. No. You got to overhaul the staff. Tim Cronin 33 goes, if J Love makes it to the Super Bowl, where would he rank amongst all quarterbacks? Top 5. He'd be like the 5th best quarterback. I mean, if he made it and he won it, we're talking about, a guy that could get pushed into top 3 conversations. I'm going to get nasty. Ash Talk Sports goes, who do you think will be better in 3 years' time? Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, or Jordan Love? I'm going to go with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is special. I think CJ is special. Caleb is still a wait and see. But I'm going to go with my guy. I'm going with Jordan Love. On Jure goes, rank these 5 quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Tua, Trevor Lawrence. Number 5 is Tua. He's the worst amongst all these quarterbacks. Number 4, this is in a vacuum, by the way. So, I'm taking into account all these quarterbacks being in a similar situation. Number 4, I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. I think him not living up to the billing in big moments has really hurt his stock. And at this point, I'm questioning if I can trust him or not. Number 3 is Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence has a lot to prove next year and has to cut back on the turnovers. Number 2 is Jalen Hurts. I know it's been a down season, but I still think he's an exceptional quarterback. I don't think he's as gifted as a thrower as Jordan Love, which is why I have Jordan Love at number 1. But Jalen Hurts is great. But this year we have seen his weaknesses show up. He's not the best at surveying the field. He often, takes easy outs like throwing 50-50 balls to A.J. Brown down the field or making bad decisions in crucial moments of the game. And I feel like last year, the question mark for me was, how will Jalen Hurts perform against zone defenses? And this year, he got a heavy dose of it. And it kind of confuses him a bit. So for me, Jalen Hurts is number 2. Jordan Love is number 1. At Flama Blanca, Jim Harbaugh, the legacy going to the Chargers to pair with Herbie. I like it. I do. I think that would be my spot for Jim Harbaugh. At KWill71, do you feel foolish for ever believing in Dallas? Of course I do. They were a first-round exit in the playoffs. Of course I do. But to be fair, they looked awesome in the regular season. At least sometimes they did. Man, it just felt, when you look at some records that haven't been broken yet and you're saying it's just going to happen at some point. That's how I felt about the Cowboys home streak, winning 16 games in a row. And you're just like, everything is lining up for this to go bad, isn't it? And everything went as horrible as you can expect. At Chris Reminisce, what the fuck are the Jets doing, Joel? No one fired after a 32nd ranked offensive unit is nasty work. You want to know why? It's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is controlling the Jets right now, bro. At this point, all we can do is sit back and watch. That's all we can do. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Joel Moran Show. If you sticked around the entire episode, Thank you. I appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe. And make sure if you're listening to this on audio platforms, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever platform you're listening to this on, make sure to rate the podcast 5 stars, write a review. It really helps out. Thank you guys for watching or listening, and I'll see you guys next time.